Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me is Richie Schneiderite, Chris Nalwasky, Craig Epstein. Guys, we had another big win last night against Maryland at home. Rutgers won 64-50. I was surprised that they were as small of a favorite in this one. They were a 5.5-point favorite according to Vegas, but they, never looked in doubt all last night. So, Chris, I'm going to kick it off to you. What really impressed you from last night's win against Maryland?
Yeah, I thought they played very well connected. I thought they played mature. I mean, they beat Purdue on Monday night. They had obviously a late flight back. They got back Tuesday morning. They had a bunch. Everyone was talking about them, in terms of the college basketball world on Monday night. I know there's other stuff going on, but in terms of the college basketball world, they were the talk of the town. They had other interviews on Tuesday, and they basically had one day to get ready for Maryland, essentially. Kevin Willard was coming back to town, but actually Maryland actually had the number at the rack the past couple times that they played there, so that was something to watch too. But Rutgers played extremely well defensively again. They held Maryland to 50 points. I think they averaged over 70 or so. So that was obviously impressive again. Maryland actually had more turnovers than made shots. So that was that's obviously a wild stat. I think they had 20 turnovers and 19 field goals. There was they went on some runs defensively. Obviously, it wasn't the best offensive performance, but Cliff did a very good job on the boards. Paul Mulcahy, was phenomenal again. He really took charge. And they kind of went on a run after he got hit he was hit with the flagrant foul by the Maryland Reese, and Rutgers kind of turned the tables from there, and they just they got the job done, and they're 3-1, the Big Ten now, almost 4-0, but they're a half game out of first place behind Michigan and Wisconsin, who are 3-0, who they've played one less game so far, but now they have Iowa on Sunday, and obviously they're going to look to keep the train going there.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say coming off that big Purdue win, facing the team like Maryland, I guess there's kind of that worry of a letdown. Rutgers, like I said, Rutgers coming off that big win. Maryland's coming off like a 35-point just blowout loss to Michigan. So you could be worried that maybe this is a little bit of a track game for Rutgers if they start reading their own clippings, that whole thing. But no, Rutgers came into this one. I mean, they were down, 4-0 early, but then right then and there, they just went on a 15-0 run and just kind of really just took the game over. And I don't think they trailed the rest of the way. So just credit to Rutgers. Like I said, this could have been a trap game, but Peichel and them did not allow that to be a trap game. I mean, it wasn't a great performance offensively, but defensively, it was as good as we've seen all year long. This is their calling card now, is that they are, if they're not the best defensive team in the country, they're one of them. And just like you said, again, they held Maryland to their season low so far, and they basically this is kind of just what they do. Like anytime a team faces them, it feels like they're basically giving their season low of points. So they held Maryland to, I think it was 50 points. Mm-hmm. Rutgers scores 64. I mean, like I said I think I said on the BTN show last night, like anytime Rutgers gets into that mid-60s kind of area, they're probably going to win just because their defense is just so elite. So, I mean, credit to them. They played some just absolutely amazing, really full-court defense, which I kind of watching them now more and more. That's kind of what propels the whole ship, because teams spend so long just trying to get the ball up the court that by the time they get to their half-court offense, there's like maybe 8 to 10 seconds left, and you basically can't run an offense like that. So you see whether it's a shot clock violation or they're just kind of chucking up a crappy three and it misses. Rutgers is just there, and Cliff played a great game defensively, rebounding, which we all kind of knew going into this one. This was a game Cliff should have feasted on the boards, and he did. I remember there was one play towards the end where it was just like him against maybe 3 Maryland guys. He just goes up there, snatches it down, passes it out to Cam with the kind of a back-breaking three, and that was kind of the name of the game yesterday. So credit for Rutgers, and now they place Iowa, which is just like this game. I think is a very good barometer, just because Maryland is also a team that they're probably going to favor them. They probably should beat. So as long as Rutgers can just keep stacking up these wins now, it's only going to help them in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I'll feed off that as well. Some more stats from last night. Rutgers has been a very good free throw shooting team this season. A lot better than what they've been in the past. I know, almost every press conference, Pike will get asked about free throws. He hasn't gotten that this year. Rutgers, I think, was 12 of 14 from the foul line last night, so that obviously helps. If you're not scoring the ball in terms of on the field goals and everything, but I thought Derek Simpson did well, and he had a long run. He had the second highest plus minus on the team at plus 18. They really trusted him to kind of match up with Maryland's athletic guards. He did a great job. He had a really nice dunk. I think it was the first half or I think that's when that happened. I think everyone just kind of knows their roles, and everyone just kind of understands what they have to do. Andre High comes in, he plays great defense. He hasn't been the best shooter, but he still makes a couple threes and plays great defense. So Dean Reaper came in and did what he had to do in his limited minutes. I mean, Wolf Folk and Dean, they didn't play a lot because Cliff, he wasn't in foul trouble, so he was able to stay on the court more. Everyone just has played a mature game. Everyone's just connected, and like you said, Craig, the defense has just been great. I mean, nobody wants to play Rutgers at the rack. Nobody wants to play Rutgers because of defense. And Kevin Willard mentioned in his press conference yesterday that he doesn't remember this Rutgers team, doing the full court press as much as they have this year, and that really messes teams up. Yeah, so I mean, if Rutgers can keep this up defensively, they're obviously going to be tough to beat, and yeah.
And I didn't even mention before. I mean, Paul Mulcahy right now is playing like one of the best guards in the Big Ten, if not the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's unbelievable. He might not fill up the stat sheet, but I mean, he just does everything so well. And if he can continue to play like this, I mean, it's just like this team can just keep going and going, and who knows how good things can get for them.
Yeah, it was definitely a defensive show last night. There was a couple of notes I had, especially from you guys mentioning it. So Rutgers held another opponent well below its season average. I think Maryland was averaging 72 points coming into this game. They scored 50. There was 3 separate stretches of 4+ minutes where Maryland didn't score a basket. So early in the first half, I think from like the 18-minute mark in the first half to like the 10-minute mark, there was an 8-minute stretch where they didn't score at all. That was the longest stretch. But then there was 2 separate other stretches where there was 4+ minutes where they didn't score. And I do agree, this press that they're running is it's completely breaking teams. Like, it started a few games ago, and then with the Purdue game, they were just running press from like the start. And I think that's what we're going to see out of Pike from now on. And I think it's because he has such an experienced team that he trusts these guys to know how the different shifts need to happen, how not to foul 90 feet away from the basket. Like, these guys are really, as tenacious as they are around the hoop, they're very well disciplined too. They don't commit dumb fouls. They will be aggressive and commit a foul when a guy's going for a shot, but they don't really foul away from the basket too often. But yeah, teams can't break this press. It is just suffocating.
Yeah, I would think just mentally as an opposing team facing that for 40 minutes, that's got to be aggravating. It's got to be like just physically and mentally exhausting to face a full court press playing that well, like for 40 minutes. That's just got to be that's got to be tough. And I feel like another special aspect of their defense is the fact that it feels like they can switch up their defense like that. Like, they can go from man to zone back to, like, they can change it. It feels like every drive. And it's like to have to face a defense where it's like you don't know what's coming. Like, it's just Rutgers from that standpoint just has a leg up from like the get-go. And it's just crazy to see. I guess the one nitpicky thing about this game, like you said, is that Maryland went like 8 minutes without a basket, and then there was a couple stretches of 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And when things like that happen, I know Rutgers might not have the greatest offense in the world, but when teams go on droughts like that, like, you got to bury them. Like, when you face better competition, and if a team does something like that, you have to bury them because, as you said, 8 minutes without scoring, but Rutgers was only up by 11, so they only end up going into halftime by 7. So things like that is just something you got to clean up. As we kind of seen in the past, where if a team goes on a scoring drought, like, if you want to be the best team of the best, you just gotta kind of, I guess you can't put them away, but you got to do your best to make it maybe not an 11-point, maybe closer to like a 20-point lead. That way, it's just like the game is done, especially like we said with the defense.
Yeah, from the 18-minute mark in the first half to the 1-minute mark in the first half, Maryland scored 10 points total, and Rutgers only scored 24 in the first half. So it was an offensive struggle for both teams in the first half. Very ugly, but you can't really complain about 14-point conference wins at home.
That gypsy curse right there on the rims.
So what else did you guys? Any other points you guys wanted to hit on this game that we didn't cover already?
Richie, what did you think?
I think you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head on just about everything. I like to reference like the full court press to like that little gnat in your room that just won't go away and you can't get them and it's just like get over here.
Yeah, by midnight you got a magazine. You're standing on top of 2 chairs and you're just wailing into the corner, and your neighbor looks in your window.
You know what's the worst? When it's late at night, you got a fly in your room, and you're trying to go sleep, but you hear the buzzing, and it's like it's a fly, so it's not going to do anything. But it's like you're not going to be able to go to sleep because you just hear that constant buzzing. That's kind of that's kind of Rutgers' defense.
Yeah, this team kind of reminds me of like the old. I shouldn't even say old school. Like, geez, a couple years ago, like the Virginia teams. Like, it's just nonstop defense. It's going to be pressure. It's going to piss you off because it's going to force you to make stupid passes and turn the ball over. I think Maryland turned it over 20 times yesterday, 21 times, whatever it was. This is just typical Steve Pikiell Rutgers basketball. And it's fun. It's fun to watch too, because if you like basketball in general, it's fun to watch. If you like offensive games like the Big East, then it's probably not that fun to watch. But they definitely got to fix the scoring a little bit. I know, obviously 3-point land is still not their strength whatsoever, but they're starting to take less and less, it seems like. Cliff had an okay game. I shouldn't even say okay. He had a good rebounding game, good defensive game, but like the offense just stunk for the most part. Minus Mulcahy, who obviously 6 of 6, but it's crazy to see what Paul can do when he's healthy. And I think he's probably near 100% at this point. I'm sure that stinger probably bothers him a little bit here and there, but not as much as it did in games 1 through 4 or 4 or 5, whatever it was. I forget when he got hurt. Great win. Great momentum you're getting now. So just take that into Iowa. You got to beat Iowa, and then you have a tough stretch. It's not easy by any means. So just keep it going, ride that high.
Yeah, at this point, Rutgers has won 5 games in a row ever since they lost by a couple points to Seton Hall. I think they kind of obviously you talked on it a bunch in the past, but the Ohio State game definitely affected them for that one. But ever since then, they kind of turned the page and they've been clicking on both. I'd say on both ends of the court. Obviously, we know that they don't score a bunch, but the defense is going to keep them in the games, and that's really been a huge factor in why they've won. They still have the 3rd best defense on KenPom. I think they're like 14th or they're 13th on KenPom now. In the net, they're still 14th. Mm-hmm. So if they beat Iowa on Sunday, Iowa always plays them tough. Who knows what's going to happen in that one? But obviously, playing at the Rock should help Rutgers in that regards. But Iowa has beaten them at the Rock in the past, so we'll see what happens there. But there's a good chance some voters should probably kind of take notice a little bit. And if Rutgers takes care of business on Sunday against Iowa, there's a chance that Rutgers could be ranked come next week.
Yeah, I agree. And also, now Iowa's riding a bit of momentum with that big win against Indiana. The Big Ten is just so weird. What was Iowa down 21 points, and they came back and won? Just crazy. And then I saw what else happened? There was another game yesterday that I'm forgetting off the top of my head.
Purdue beat
Ohio State.
Yeah, Purdue. Yeah, Purdue came. I think Purdue came back because I saw they were losing early on.
Yeah, actually, the same dude, Fletcher Lawyer, who hit the 3-pointer against Rutgers, that put Purdue up. That won Purdue the game last night against Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State didn't have like a Cam Spencer knocking down a shot, but credit to Fletcher Lawyer there making 2 big threes late in the game, 2 games in a row. But
yeah, KD was hyping up Big Ten basketball last night. I don't know if anybody saw that. He was
did he say anything about Rutgers?
No, I quoted him from the Rutgers Rivals account too. I was like, "Yo, who do you have winning the Big Ten if you're going to talk about like Big Ten basketball?" And he just didn't answer. I'll have to get his opinion elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so regarding Rutgers being ranked, I don't think it's a question of if they're going to be ranked if they beat Iowa on Sunday. It's how high are they ranked. I don't think there's any way you can not rank this team anymore. So if they beat Iowa, I think they could come in as high as like the late teens, like 19. A lot of teams have lost this last week too. I wish that they didn't do weekly rankings, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Let's talk a little. We'll preview the Iowa game more later in this week, but let's talk a little bit about basketball recruiting. Richie, what's going on with Rutgers basketball recruiting right now?
Everyone's freaking out over Dylan Harper, rumors, smoke, whatever you want to call it. Big game tonight. He's taking on DJ Wagner, who's number 1 in the state for 2022. I think, 2022. I can't even think of it. Or 2023? 2023. Jeez, I don't even know what year it is anymore. DJ Wagner, Kentucky commit. Aaron Bradshaw, Kentucky commit. Both Camden guys are going to take on Don Bosco Prep and Dylan Harper tonight. Riot Squad's bringing the crew. I know they just tweeted it out again. I think there's like 7 or 8 replies now at this point of guys saying, like, we're going to. It's going to be a big Rutgers contingent, it seems like, there to support Dylan Harper. Obviously, last week he played in the John Wall Invitational down in North Carolina. A lot of hype around that. John Wall actually even said he was going to NC, which John Wall clearly doesn't follow recruiting whatsoever. Yep. So that was a weird one, but he did say he's like something like that Harper kid, man. Like he's good. He's really good. So gave him a stamp of approval. It's going to be down to Duke and Rutgers. We've been saying this forever. Indiana's there, but they're like a distant third. And it's going to be a matter of, do you want to go to the typical blue blood program that has produced over the past years, or do you want to be the guy at Rutgers and maybe be the turning point to get Rutgers to that next level? He might be a 1 and done. He might be a 2 and done. That's a tough call, but I think either way, it's at max, I should say. He's 2 years and he's going to the pro. Like he's that good. I know it's tough because you don't know if he wants to follow in his brother's footsteps or create his own legacy, his own path. Not that like going to Duke really creates your own legacy, but that's just my opinion personally. That's an interesting one. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's not anywhere near deciding just yet, so you have some time. Ideally, you get him back to the rack one more time before the season's over, whether that be for another random midweek visit or a weekend visit. Maybe he'll be there Sunday. Who knows?
Yeah, because isn't the game's at Kane University, right?
Yeah, one's like
I
was going to say. Yeah, there you go.
7:30 tonight.
Repping some Kane.
It's 7:30 tonight.
It was supposed to be at I think Roselle Catholic or some other. I think it was Roselle Catholic, and then obviously the fans and everything. It was too much and moved to a bigger venue.
And now it's like a big event too. Like it's Allen Iverson Classic. It's partnered with Showtime. Like they're going to live stream it on Baller TV, which is like one of the bigger streaming services for high school basketball and AAU events. It's like 3 events technically in one night. Like there's one at Peak Sports Academy in Mountainside. There's one at Roselle. There's like 12 games on tonight from just in New Jersey. Like they're big games. There's not just small games. Like a Texas school came up, a Maryland school came up, a Minnesota school came over, Minnesota Prep, who Antonio Cho's alma mater or whatever. Who else? Ohio schools coming over. Like there's a ton of like New York, Maryland, Ohio, Texas. This is like a fun day in New Jersey. If you like high school basketball in New Jersey and good high school basketball, you can go to any of these events and you'll have a blast. Like just watching this, but I do recommend getting there early. Tickets are strictly at the door. There's a game at 5:30 between Newark East Side and Newark West Side. You might not know anyone on those teams because I don't even know who's on those teams, to be honest. But Newark East Side has produced a couple in the past. I think they've produced a couple Seton Hall guys as well. So, I mean, just go watch that. It's probably going to be a good game regardless. And then just get there early. That's all I can really say. Last time I went to Kane, there was a line like wrapped around the door. But mind you, that was like Montverde and like a bunch of other big names with like it was actually Kaminga versus Cliff Almarie. It was the last time I went to Kane.
Okay.
So that was a pretty cool setup. But this is going to be a packed house. It's going to be like shoulder to shoulder. You're probably going to be miserable in the stands if you don't like basketball. So don't go if you don't like it. That's it. That's all I got.
Interesting stat I just saw too, basketball wise. Rutgers is favored to win every remaining game other than the Indiana game on Ken Palm right now, which is pretty wild.
Why does everyone overhype Indiana? I don't get it.
Well, it's an away game. They're
Okay. Still, like, they're not that good.
Yeah, they're not. But
Did they only play Michigan State once this year?
Rutgers?
Oh no, they play him at MSG. That's right.
Yeah, they play him at MSG.
But they play him and then they play him against at East Lansing too.
Yep.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
figured.
We had another visitor last night, though. The JUCO big man.
Manuel, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Agbo,
Yep.
maybe? Yeah, so he came to campus last night. I was talking to him a little bit. He enjoyed his visit a lot. I'm going to have an article up soon with quotes. Yeah, he's new to the game. He's played soccer his entire life. He's only been playing hoops for, I think it was 3 years or 2 years. I got to double check on that one. But he was actually a goalie for a soccer team, so he's pretty athletic. Long wingspan. I know he was technically, last time we talked about big man recruiting for Rutgers, he was technically like option B. There was like 1A and 1B, and that was Ndongo and who was it, Jusum Bodo, who they're still pursuing as well. Rutgers is actually pretty high on Bodo's board, but it sounds like Arizona State might have the lead there. In terms of Ndongo, it sounds like he might end up staying out on the West Coast, whether that be Colorado, whether it be Nebraska. I know it's not a coast technically for Nebraska, but on San Diego's pushing. That one's going to be a tough land, I think. So I think they're going to have to go towards Emmanuel and try to look towards like a JUCO big man, which is fine. He's a solid player. He's probably a developmental piece. He could fill that gap as a backup big for Woolfolk for the next like 2 years. Just someone that can kind of split minutes with him too. So he really enjoyed his visit. Rutgers likes him. I don't think they take him right away. I think they want to see what the other two do first. But it sounds like Ndongo is going to decide probably within a week, maybe less. And then Bodo has to take a couple visits still, so we'll see. But
is there anything new on the Ace Bailey front?
No, always quiet. It's tough during the season for these guys because like most of them aren't going to take that many visits. He does want to visit Oregon, Texas, UCLA. He keeps telling people.
Well,
Mind
Texas
you,
still maybe.
Yeah, well that one's probably out, I would assume. Interestingly enough, I mentioned it in our little group chat. Jay Lucas is the lead recruiter for Dylan Harper, along with John Shire, obviously, for Dylan Harper at Duke. Jay Lucas is rumored as one of the front runners for the Texas job.
Is Jay Lucas John Lucas' son?
That's a good question.
I'll look it up.
Do not know. I'm just guessing at this point, but he did McDonald's All-Americans. I mean, that does nothing to do with anything, but
yeah, it is. It is his.
it is his son.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not the craziest thing in the world. He's a former Texas player. I know after talking to like some sources over at Duke, they knew that Lucas wasn't going to be there long. They think he's that good of an assistant. So if you can get him to just like, just leave and go to Texas, it's going to help Rutgers. But I know Shire has really kind of taken Dylan as it's more of like one of those situations where if the head coach is getting involved as much as he is, it's like, oh shit, like that means they're super serious about this guy. So he's getting like almost taking the lead recruiter role away from Lucas and being that lead recruiter as head coach. So we'll see what happens, but nothing on Harper. Other than that, nothing really much on Harper. Nothing new on Ace Bailey, who's been relatively quiet. And it's just kind of a wait and see. These guys are 2024s. They're not deciding they don't have to decide anytime soon, to be honest. So just wait and see.
Interesting. Okay, let's transition to football a bit. We got a new transfer offer overnight from a safety from Liberty. I thought we were done recruiting DBs in the portal, but apparently not. Tell us a little bit about this kid.
I don't know a ton about him, I'll be honest. He played JUCO ball. I don't know if it was just more of size or lack of size, because he is 6'2", 190 coming out of JUCO. I have to find his high school profile. It seems like he didn't. He's got 6 interceptions during 2 seasons at Liberty. Like I said, I don't know a ton about this kid because it just happened. Like literally, I just find it interesting that they're going to get another safety, especially one that has like 1 year left. I think it is, or 2 years. Yeah, 1 year left. Yeah, he's got 1 year of eligibility left. So now it's a little weird to me because you were pretty confident in your DB room. It seemed like Eric Rogers was going to be a cornerback, kind of filling in that Braswell role a little bit. or I guess opposite side of Melton. And then you got Igbenosin and who's the other corner or safety they got? I can't even think of his name.
Loyal?
No, they got a transfer safety. Who the hell?
Rogers?
Flip Dixon.
Flip Dixon.
Oh, Dixon.
Yeah. So, ironically, like, I wonder if they bumped Dixon down to like that Izzian role, the role he didn't want to play at Minnesota, and you put this kid back there at safety. It's just another tall, lengthy safety. It seems like Liberty's been pretty solid over the past couple of years. I mean, hence why their head coach is now Auburn's head coach. But yeah, I don't know. It was a weird offer to me. I just thought you have a lot more pressing needs, especially on the opposite side of the ball. So it seems like, I guess, along with wide receiver, tight end, D tackle, they also want another safety as well. So this is interesting. The kid doesn't seem bad though. He seems pretty athletic at safety and seems like a solid player.
Yeah, you got to wonder if there's some kind of roster move that hasn't been announced yet to offer another defensive back. Because, I mean, I love the idea of, strengthening a strength, making a good unit even better with more depth. Mm. But adding a third defensive back when you haven't added a single offensive player in the portal, that to me says, is there somebody going to the NFL that we're not aware of? Maybe a Max Melton?
He'd be the only one, right? That's not it.
Yeah. Very strange, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, I question the staff on some things. I won't question them on defensive backs because they all know what they're doing there for sure.
I won't question them on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Other side.
Well, the thing is, obviously, now we know it's likely that it seems more than likely Kirk is going to be the offensive coordinator. And I feel like typically when moves like that happen, don't you usually see guys kind of follow their guy wherever they go? So, I mean, maybe it'll happen today or the next week. Don't guys usually follow? Wouldn't you think maybe some Minnesota guys may follow Kirk to Rutgers? Is there any shot of that?
Nope.
Huh.
I mean, it's not really.
Yeah.
The guy like White that we kind of talked about last night, he already announced he's going to Charlotte. They don't really have any true studs in the portal right now. That doesn't mean that there won't be kids who leave Minnesota because Soroka is no longer there. I think that's something to keep an eye on. But I wouldn't say there's anybody that is a clear, like, oh, sweet, now we could probably land X player because we have Soroka. I don't think that exists, unfortunately.
Well, number one, he's not like an ace recruiter type, and you don't really have to be as a coordinator. In terms of quarterbacks, I don't know if you guys noticed this, like not just quarterback, I should say at this point, but multiple players on their team tweeted like immediately after Soroka got announced as Rutgers OC, and they're like, the culture here, we love it. Like, we're not leaving, we're not going anywhere. Like, so Drew Vioto, their quarterback commit in this class, who just signed in December, basically said like, I'm here for the long run. I love Minnesota. Blah blah blah. Ethan, I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, Kalarmanakis or something like that. I'll get that one day, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
But, no. No, so he tweeted out, he's like, I love the culture, I love the program, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going anywhere. And that one's the most intriguing one because him and Kirk were like this, apparently. Like, they were very close. He's a big reason why he went to Minnesota in the first place. And then, end of the day, like, if you're a wide receiver, which is what Rutgers needs, you're probably not going anywhere because your wide receiver coach, Matt Simon's probably about to become the OC. At least is probably the betting front runner, if I had to guess, to be the OC at Minnesota. And then PJ Fleck's wide receivers coach himself. So, like, I hate to say it, I don't think anyone's following Kirk. Like, they're going to have to go somewhere else and go get other portal guys somewhere. I don't know, go to Liberty or something. They had a pretty decent offense.
And it's weird. Isn't this like Kirk's fifth stop in the last like 5 years? I was looking it up. It was like 2019. He was Minnesota. 2020 he was at Penn State for that year. 2021 he was at West Virginia.
Yep.
Then he came back to Minnesota for 2022, and now he's going to Rutgers for 2023. So that's 5 stops in 5 years. That's just kind of like it's very, very, very curious.
Western Michigan and Minnesota. That's like 6 straight years with Fleck. So I get that. That one you can't judge really too much. But he ditched Fleck for Penn State, got fired by Penn State, went to West Virginia, and came back to Minnesota, and then ditched Fleck again. So if anyone should be mad in this situation, I'd probably be Fleck. And be like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you ditched me for Penn State. All right, come on, I'll bring you back one more time. What the fuck? You just ditched me for Rutgers? Like, so
it's very weird.
Yeah, he does bounce around quite a bit. he also has had his struggles. Like it's not a secret. Like we said yesterday, this is just a meh hire. Like it's nothing special. And then you're paying a lot of fucking money for this guy. I know the numbers aren't out there yet, but substantial amount when the guy was making $975 this year, $975 the next year, and then $1 million the next year after that. And that's Minnesota money. So transfer that to New Jersey money. That's probably like we said yesterday. What was it? 1.4 we thought? We're assuming 1.3.
Not 1.4. I think it's going to be
1.2, right?
I think it's between 1.1 and 1.2 with Rutgers paying the buyout.
Yeah.
If I had to guess.
It's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. That's just a lot of money for a meh hire.
Like you said, I at this point in the game, I don't think they were ever really going to get an inspiring hire. I think at this point it was just like I'm assuming that like you said, Mike. I mean, they probably were told no by at least their first person who knows them anymore, and it's like. I think for what they were probably dealing with, it's not the worst hire in the world. It's not great, but not terrible. I guess it's just it's more of a wait and see approach, I guess. But going into this, it kind of felt like they wanted to hire more of like a West Coast, RPO style offense. And from everything that I feel like I've seen from, that I kind of know about Kirk is that he seems like he runs more probably of the same kind of Rutgers with that pro style. It's going to be I'm thinking it's just a very run heavy offense. Like you said, Richie, in like our chat, he ran the ball like over 300 times. Like, it's just like, that's what I'm thinking. It's all going to be about beefing up the offensive line. If Rutgers can beef up that offensive line, then that allows you to run heavy, whether it's Sam Brown, whoever it may be, you can run the ball. And it gives whoever your quarterback be more time in the pocket, or not in the pocket, more time back there. And if he wants to run, he can run. It's just like, to me now it's all about just beefing up that offensive line, which that's what you got to do in the Big Ten. The big uglies win in this league, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, see that. If they want to run the ball too, you have Gavin Winsett who didn't run, toward the end of last season, but he ran a lot at the beginning of the season, before he got hurt. So I know, what we've heard is that Rutgers wants more of a kind of like a spread and dual threat offense. A dual threat quarterback, and that's what Winsett kind of that's what he does. So, but yeah, they're going to have to get much improvement on the offensive line. I think they actually have. I looked up this morning. They have a special university board of governors meeting set for
Saturday.
Tomorrow. It's virtual, so technically anybody can kind of hop in there. So he's expected
to
be
share the link on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm sure that would go
well. To be hired then, so
one of those wackos is going to go and
Kirk next week, but yeah.
Yeah, one of those wackos are going to go and complain and be like, I'm paying this much fucking money for a coach. Are you kidding me? Like, academics. Yeah. It's like 1% of the fucking budget, dude. Relax.
Well, also, given how much the new TV deal is, like,
athletics
could almost be independent from the university at this point.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, though, Craig. So this is the quote we got from a Johnny Shepard back on November 29th.
Yeah, that's what I was.
He said, Coach Shiano's told me he interviewed 4 guys plus Nunzio Campanelli. Number one, so that tells me that those probably 3 of those I'm not even going to speculate on that.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
He said that whoever he hires is going to be a dual threat guy who is going to develop a system that fits his quarterback. A dual threat guy, right? 2022. Let's look at Minnesota stats. Ethan, I can't pronounce his last name. 34 rushes. Tanner Morgan, who also played 9 games, 34 rushes, like 50 yards, 140 yards. Okay, it doesn't sound like a dual threat year to me. Let's keep going. 2019, Tanner Morgan, negative 57 rushing yards. Mind you, this is with sacks because sacks are weird in college, and for some reason they count them towards rushing stats. So 61 rushes, negative 57 yards. We'll just assume probably 20-something of those were probably sacks, so we'll go with 40 rushes again. 2018, let's look again. Zach Anixstad, 7 rushes. That was your starter. Tanner Morgan, 40 rushes for 50 yards. Where's this dual threat thing I'm supposed to look at?
I'll just say this. I will assume Shepard believed that at the time.
I mean, you know, more options.
Yeah, when Shannon was talking about his first or second guys, he was talking through for his OC.
I got to go all the way back to 2016 to find a quarterback that ran the ball a little bit. And Zach Terrell ran it 80 times for 250. Even that's not like dual threat. Like I'm talking dual threat numbers means like I'm not passing for 3,500 yards. I'm probably going to pass for like 2,700. I'm probably going to run for like 500 yards on the year, at least. I'd consider that dual threat, not running for 200 yards, 100 yards, 50 yards, negative 60 yards.
And I think one other thing we have to kind of, accept is that this is going to be at least a 3-year deal for Soraka. So we're stuck with this type of offense, guys. This is what Rutgers is going to be. Like the idea that they would turn to some kind of, air raid style offense, it's just not going to happen. So we just have to accept that we're going to be this run pass team. And hopefully as we get better personnel, that'll work better. Because in fairness, it did work pretty well for Minnesota this year. Like they didn't have like a great season. I think they went like 8-4. But we saw it against Rutgers. Like they were able to move the ball consistently with a good running back. I think that can be what Rutgers does with a Sam Brown and an improved offensive line. But there's just so much more we need to do personnel-wise to get to that point. It's still, we're still in the midst of this rebuild, even though we're in year 4 of Shiano.
Yeah, and also just say that, like you said, we're stuck with that kind of offense, but like as long as Rutgers wins, nobody's going to care what style it is. Like it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be sexy air raid. As long as Rutgers wins, like nobody's going to care. And honestly, like the bar, to me, and I think for a lot of fans, the bar is just 6 wins. It's just find a way to get 6 wins, get bowl eligibility, and just kind of find your way to just, even if it's like a quick lane or a pinstripe bowl, like. That is the. I know it's not sexy, Richie, but I mean, wait a second. You're saying a trip to Yankee Stadium wouldn't be on the top of your list?
Hell no. The press box is like outdoors. It's fucking miserable. You think I want to be there in December outdoors? Oh,
can I interest you in a Christmas in Detroit then for the Quick Lane Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean. To me, that's the bar this year. Is you got to get to 6 wins, you got to get that bowl eligibility, and then you can then all the fans will kind of be off your back for a little while, for like maybe 5 minutes,
5 minutes. Yeah. It's pretty accurate. The other thing is like, and I know some people criticize Kick quite a bit on our message boards, but I want to bring up the stat he said. 5 years as offensive coordinator in the Big Ten, right? Minnesota, Minnesota, Penn State, and Minnesota again. He's 2-23 when this team has been down by a touchdown or more. That means like you in Rutgers, we know never trailing. They'll never trail in a game. If they're down a touchdown with Kirk Soraka, it's basically like you lost. And one of those wins was against Nebraska this year, we know for a fact was Cheeks. Like just bad. Like
yeah.
I'm just not a fan of it.
I was looking at some stats, just now as well. Kirk Soraka's offense have ran the ball a ton. Obviously, he did at Minnesota. I look back, he also did it a lot at Western Michigan when they had former Union running back Jamar Bogan.
Yeah.
So, like Shiano said that he wants to run a complementary his team.
That quote will never die.
Yeah, he wants to have a complementary offense, complementary team, whatever he said. But that's going to be good defense and run the ball. So, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, why he hired Soraka. And also, I was just going to mention it in the article I was going to write today. But he said it over the summer that, I don't know if, obviously, any of you guys other than Richie have been to, a football practice under Greg. But there's been a lot of times where they do segments where, on the loudspeaker, everybody, they're working on ball security. And, the whole thing goes, the ball is the program. Ball's the program all day. Obviously, Shannon was talking about not wanting to turn the ball over. And he actually credited Kirk Soraka, for that, the whole ball's the program stuff. So that's something that I remember from over the summer that Greg said about Kirk. So
interesting.
I just looking back at it, does Rutgers have a Muhammad Ibrahim? And do you have a running back that can run the ball 320 times on his own?
I think Sam Brown potentially could be that, but he has to stay healthy. I know what you're already going to say.
Yeah, that's a lot of carries. And if he's already getting injured now with this offensive line, also, can we just ignore the fact that, are we ignoring the fact that Minnesota has a decent offensive line?
Right.
Like
Well, yeah,
Rutgers,
to me, that's like I said, that's going to be the key. Is you gotta build up that offensive line. I mean, it's not obviously not there now, but I'll give them. I gotta give them some time to try and do it.
yeah, it's just it's going to be interesting. I don't know what to think of this hire. I think it's meh. And looking at the bowl tie-ins, I started doing some research. Let's try to get Nashville. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be sick.
Oh, okay. Nashville.
Yeah,
What
not to
bowl
change
would that be?
the
Music City Bowl.
Perfect Music City Bowl because everything
Okay.
has a sponsor now.
Yeah. How about the Tony the Tiger Bowl?
The Sun
Is that a
Bowl,
bowl?
El Paso.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna pass on that.
There's like
So-
4 Cheez-It bowls. Like,
Yeah, there's
There's okay. Yeah, because
there's an interesting sort of throwaway line at the end of Pete Thamel's article about Kirk Soraka joining Rutgers as well that I wanted to highlight. And I'll just read it verbatim. This marks the third staff defection from Minnesota in recent days, all of whom left for significant raises. Now, you tell me what you think a significant raise from $950K a year is. To me,
1.4.
significant is at least 20%. So 20% over that would be 1.2. I think that's what we're kind of looking at here, guys. I think Shiano paid about $1.2 million a year for Kirk Soraka for at least 3 years. So,
and I kind of hate to say it, but it's kind of just weird. And I guess I don't know the fact that Fleck is obviously a Shiano disciple, and you see a lot of guys now kind of going away, kind of going to wherever it may be, and you're hearing like a lot of people feel like it's could be because of like Fleck and kind of the I guess environment he kind of creates. It might be kind of you're hearing a lot that he's kind of might be a tough guy to work for, which it's kind of you're starting to hear the same kind of stuff over here. So it's just like it's a kind of I don't know what to say. It's kind of just what I guess that's what it is.
If you read Twitter, everyone's like, the snake oil salesman's failing finally, and it's like, shut up. Like, dude. I honestly, they probably are similar coaches. They have like similar MOs and everything. He works for him. Like, of course he's going to take all the shit he did. He does the family thing. He does the TBA. It's like trust, belief, accountability, or whatever.
Rode the boat.
That too. I don't know if that's his shtick technically, or if Minnesota bought that, or like what the deal is there. But
I think it
that's a
might be
weird
it.
one too.
Yeah.
I feel like it says.
And there's Sky Uma, and it's like, why bring row the boat? Here I have one. Like,
Yep.
I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be a significant raise, and I don't like the idea of paying Soraka that much. Personally, I would have went with a young up and comer, but that's just me. I don't know what else there is to be said. They're probably going to.
I guess he did that already, kind of with Sean Gleason. He gave him over $1 million last year. We kind of was up and comer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, with Soraka, I'm not wowed by it either. But I guess if it took this long, I feel like they could have got someone better. I guess he was turned down a bunch, but obviously I can see why a lot of people are kind of down on it just because it took this long, and this is the one that they came up with. So
Yeah.
Yep, it's all about results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They win, everybody will be happy. They lose, then we'll revisit this.
Yep.
exactly.
for sure. All right. Is there anything we haven't touched on that we wanted to hit on before we sign off here, guys?
No, not that I could think of. I mean, everything's kind of been covered. Quarterback recruiting, I posted today in the war room. There's a couple 2024 names out there, but most of the guys that like Minnesota has offered under Soraka, or most of the guys that Rutgers has offered, it's a short list right now. It's nothing special. They're probably gonna have to go out and throw out a couple new offers. I don't see them adding a transfer quarterback. I'm just gonna say that plain outright. I think that's pretty well known. They kind of trust Wimsatt and Simon to be the two guys. We'll see what happens there in that regard. But yeah, I mean the schedule sets up nicely. That's the good thing for Rutgers. So you have a shot at getting a bowl game, whether that be the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl or whatever the hell it's called, or it's the Quick Lane Bowl, but it's not really. It's like the Goodyear Quick Lane something bowl, this, that. So they have a shot at a bowl game this year, technically. We'll have to wait and see what this offense looks like. Don't read too much into spring ball. It's against each other. The whole point is to hype up the fan base. So we've done this in the past where we saw Charles Norway go for like 200 yards, and it's like, wow, he's going to run for 1,000 this year. And it's like the man played 2 snaps.
Yep.
So don't read too much into it.
Yeah. Carlton Agudosi was always a spring game standout. And then,
NFL though, somehow.
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us. This has been a hectic, 12 hours, 18 hours between the basketball game, the OT hire. But thanks for joining us once again. Stay tuned to your podcast feed. Stay tuned to the board. Stay tuned to Twitter. If you haven't already, please give us if you like what you're hearing anyway, give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, subscribe to the YouTube page. We're growing pretty rapidly since my time here. So that's exciting to see. But for me and everyone else, this has been another edition of the Knight Report podcast. Signing off.